Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Aiman Rafi'in, student of Muslim and Comparative Religion. My question is, Dr. Farooq Musa, what is your advice towards Malaysian people and maybe Malaysian government? How do we choose to take side between this issue, like in Saudi and Yemen? What Malaysian government have to do to support Saudi or to support Yemen, and what is the characteristic and features that if we want to be friends with Saudi, there is some features like that, and that's all.
To me, right, I have always spoken out about this particular issue. To me, we have to be what they call just, right? To be just. Meaning to say that, like our whole, our main principle should be to ensure that there would not be any discrimination or any what they call killings or desegregation or any kind of violence, right, against other people, and we must be just in this particular aspect. Meaning to say that, for example, if you look at the issue about Saudi and Yemen, right, previously, during the previous government, right, I believe that the idea of or the so-called donation by the Saudis and the reciprocity by the Malaysian government to allow the Saudis to build the King Salman Center of Peace, for example, right, and for the Malaysian government to send the armies to be in a coalition to fight against Yemen, right? Even though they said that they were just trying to bring the Malaysians back, but you don't need armies to bring Malaysians back, right? The embassies in Yemen could do that, right? And I don't understand why you need to send armies to take Malaysians back to Malaysia. It doesn't make sense. So to me, like, the most important thing is that for us not to look into a sectarian way, right? If the Malaysian government is able to see that there is a humanitarian crisis, the biggest humanitarian crisis in the modern world that we see in Yemen now. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of babies were starving, and basically many of them died of malnutrition, inadequate healthcare, and so on and so forth. Why are we still supporting a government that is doing that? That is basically killing innocent children and innocent men and women in Yemen. It did not make sense at all, right? It did not make sense. So we have to be steadfast, and we have to have a principle that we have to be just, right, in whatever manner. So even if a Muslim country is basically conducting a kind of war, right, unilaterally against any minorities in any parts of the world, then we have to stand against it, right? We cannot say that, okay, we have to fight for the Rohingya in Myanmar because they are being persecuted by the Buddhists in that other country. We have to help the Palestinians because they were being persecuted by the Zionists. We have to be just as well, meaning to say we have to back the Yemenis against the aggression of the Saudis. It's unnecessary aggression, right? It did not make any sense for these Saudis to bombard, send the incursions into Yemen at all. So we have to be just. Yeah, that's my only advice. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Dini. I'm from Kuliah of IIUM, majoring in Usul Fiqh. So I have two questions for you, if I can. Doctor, you just said before that you want to create a situation where Muslims and where Sunni and Shia in Malaysia can pray together under one saf, isn't it? So I would like to ask, how are we going to live with people who are Shia when they kept saying that the Sahaba is kafir? And
we say that the version of Imam Mahdi of them from the Sadaf, they are waiting, does not exist. So it's like almost impossible. Just like what happened if you know, you said about the Ottoman and the Safavid, just like we know that before 1500s, the Iran state, before that, around Iran, is a Sunni majority. But when the Safavid came, they killed the Sunni, and now Shia is a majority in the Persian area. So how are we going to unite when these things happens? That's my first question. And then my second question is I want to ask about, Doctor has bring up the Syrian war in front of us. So I'd like to ask, who is the good guy in the Syrian war? Like, it's not fair to say that...
I can't hear. What was that? What's the question?
Huh?
Who is the what?
Who is the good guy in the Syrian war? Syrian war.
Oh.
The Syrian, the big... Like, it's not fair to say that all the Mujahideen or the fighters are from ISIS. It's like we have the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, who are the only former ISIS, and we have a lot of them. So are you saying that the Daraa incident in 2011, when people protest to Bashar al-Assad, they were counter-attacked by Bashar using forces? So are you saying that it is fair? After that, they come FSA to protect these people. And you see the city of Aleppo, Daraya, Homs, Ghouta, and Zabadani are all destroyed. So is it really that Assad is a good guy? That's the second question. Thank you.
It's about the Sunni and Shia play together, and because of the doctrine of Shia that says that vilified the companions of the Prophet. I would say that, I have Shia friends. And I have discussed with them, and I have been to Tehran, and I have been to Qom, and I discussed with their Ayatollahs and their scholars over there. And this particular doctrine to vilify the companions of the Prophet actually were being done by what I term as the ghulu, people who extremists, by the extremists among the Shias. And as I said to our Mufti Asri, who used to say that everything is basically he used the Malay word, what he say, this war between Iran and Israel is sandiwara, is like a stage thing. We have to understand that this particular concept of ghulu did not only exist among the Shias. Even the Sunnis, they are ghulus, right? They are extremists among the Sunnis. They are ghulus among the Sunnis. And I do not think, and I do not believe, I have not seen any of them who tried to vilify the companions of the Prophet. They might not agree to some of the position of the companions, but they did not go to the extent of trying to say that this Sahaba is kafir and so on and so forth. Those were being done by the ghulu. So if we are saying that if just a small group of Shias were doing that, and then all the Shias were basically had to be to face this kind of label as being anti the companions of the Prophet. So I don't think it's right, I don't think it's right to just try to generalize the entire Shia community just because of the actions of a small group of Shiites. Right? And I think that there is no problem in sitting together and reciting the Quran together. They recite the same Quran. The first thing I did when I went to Iran was to ask for a Quran. And I was reciting and reading the Quran every day in my hotel room, right? And I was looking at every chapter. And you find that, nothing. These 140 chapters, this idea that, there is an extra chapter of the Quran in the Shiite, extra chapter in the Shiite Quran is totally false. you know, and I did not really read. You know, I asked them, and I basically, you know, have a look at the Quran even when I went to the mosque. So, you know, this whole idea has been perpetuated by many people who believe that, you know, like, you know, we cannot live together with the Shiites. Strangely, we can live with the Christians, we can live with the Buddhists, we can live with the Hindus, but we can't live with Shiites. I find it very strange. I find it very, very strange. And about the second question, about the good guy in Syrian war, there is no good guy. You cannot say that, oh, he's a good guy, okay, we have to support him. No. You know, in every conflict, you cannot really say there is a good guy or bad guy or whatever. But you look at it and you have to understand the whole situation. It all started, yes, it started when, you know, when Bashar al-Assad sent his troops to try and dismantle the protesters. It all started from that. But of course, the real intention or the real reason was, or the real, what you call, catalyst for this war was not that incident. It wasn't that incident. It wasn't this. It was basically, I would say, reason to create war in Syria. And your idea about the Syrian government, you know, killing Muslims in certain parts of the, like you mentioned about Aleppo and so on and so forth, I say, I look at it differently. When, during the war, if you look at what happened, and I gave an interview at BFM 89.9, which is a talk radio, the famous talk radio in Klang Valley. I gave an interview about the Syrian war. And the thing at that time that we have to understand is that there's a lot of deceit during the war. So I quoted one example. There are many, many examples. Okay, I just quoted one example. I'll give you two examples. One example is during the killing of Huta, right? The massacre of Huta. During the massacre of Huta, you know, they found bodies, and you know, it was being capitalized and being shown through Facebooks and everywhere throughout the world that this was basically the act of Bashar al-Assad killing the civilians, right? We believe that, and we are angry. We were very angry, right? How could he, you know, kill civilians and babies and women and children? But when Frankfurter Zeitung, which is an independent, very credible independent newspaper from Germany, they had this investigative journalist who went and looked at the real condition or the real situation of what had happened in Huta. The reporter, or reporters, found that it was the rebels that killed the civilians and then blame it on the Syrian government. And that was deceit that had happened so many times. Huta was the first thing. Huta was the first incident. I learned about Huta, then I look at many other places, the similar thing happens over there as well. You look at the death of this Said Ramadan al-Bouti, right? The death of him. When, you know, when he was killed in the mosque while giving his sermon, when he was killed, the next day, or even that particular night, everywhere in the entire world saying that it was from the missile, ballistic attack from Bashar al-Assad, from the armies of Bashar al-Assad into the mosque. But his son, I couldn't remember his son, where Ahmad, his son, then his son was there, and his son explained that, you know, it was not from the regime of Bashar al-Assad, but it was basically a person who came and detonated himself, a suicide bomber. And it did not make any sense at all for a mufti who has been trying to reconcile between Sunni and Shiite, who was very close with Bashar al-Assad, to be killed by Bashar al-Assad. It did not make sense at all. So this is the war of deceit that has happened. So I'm saying that we have to look at the bigger picture. I look at the geopolitics of it, and I look at Syrian war as why Bashar Assad, why Syria has to be, the Syrian government has to be changed to another government, is because one important factor. And as I said in my slides, the factor is Iran. Syria is a buffer region between Israel and Iran. It's a buffer state. And is the resistance is there. Syria and south is Lebanon, right? The buffer state. So once you get rid of the buffer state, you can go directly, to attack Iran. Now there are buffer states among this the Zionist entity and Iran. And I think we have to look at it. To me this is very, very complicated, and I know that I'm going to face a lot of questions from the crowds about this particular issue, because I know many of you, or majority of you, were sympathizers of what you call as victims of Bashar al-Assad. Yeah.
And then Kuliya of Engineering. Actually, I live in Saudi Arabia, the part of Shia, the East part. So as you said, the problem or the reason of this war is between Sunni and Shia is because of the economics. But when I was in the high school and the elementary school, all teachers from both parts, from Shia or Sunni, they say no economics, nothing. It's just because of the religion. And also the room of teachers, we have two rooms. One room is for Shia teachers and the other room is for Sunnah. And also the teacher, when they come to our classes, they say the Shia is so bad or the Sunnah is so bad. And then they put a new perspective for the young people, the young students in the school. So the first question is, why they say that, the teachers? Why they put the new perspective for this young people? Also, what is your advice for Arab students when they come back to Saudi Arabia or their country? What is your advice to do to solve this problem? And take care about when we come back after 5 or 10 years, the young people, it will be the youth. So the young people who will be the youth, they think about the problems about the religion, not about the economics like what it is now. That's all. Thank you.
Can you make it in one sentence and ask the question? I couldn't really follow your arguments.
The first one or the second one?
Yeah, both.
Okay, the first one, why the teachers from both of them, they put the new perspective for the young people, which is they bad or they are good. Just they say like my teacher, they say when you talk with students, they are from Shia, in the future they will kill you. They think we must kill you. If they have chance, they will kill you. So when they put this idea in their mind, this is the first one. The second one, when we graduate from IA and we come back to our country, for Arab students actually, what they can do to solve this problem? Absolutely care about the young people who's now in Shia or Sunnah. When we come back, they will be the youth. They will be who take everything in the country. So if you want to solve the problem, we tell them this economic problem, but they think no, well it's not economic, it's a religion problem. Because they're young, when they was young, they think just it's religion, not economy. Shall I get it?
Okay, I'll try. I didn't really get, but I'll try to answer, okay? Okay. I think the first one was about these teachers. You said they're trying to tell the students that, the Shiites will kill them or something like that, right? Yeah? Okay. I say that, this whole idea came because of this kind of mentality that we have. We always feel that other people than us, they are trying to have some ill intention against us. And I think that this is part of this, what you call a siege mentality as well, that is basically predominant among Muslims. But most importantly, how to diffuse that is that, how to diffuse this problem is for you to make friends with people of different denominations. If you are Shafi'i, I'm not, but if you are Shafi'i, then you make friends with your Hanafis, with your Ja'faris, with your Zaydis, and so on and so forth. These, basically, when you get to know other people, then you can get to understand. The thing is that when you try to insulate yourself and be in your own cocoon, right? You do not want to interact with others. Then you have this kind of feelings of, like these feelings of threat, that people are threatening you. And I believe it can be solved by making friends. Similarly, I know this is not the right place to say, but I would say this here. Sorry, Sept, but I have to say it here. For example, now people are vilifying gays, for example, right? If you have a gay friend, probably you will understand. Should they be vilified or not? I'm trying to say that, get to know the other, right? You have to get to know Christians, for example. You have to get to know Buddhists. You have to get to know Indians. You have to get to know the others for you to be able to understand their way of thinking and what they believe and what they believe in themselves and what they believe in this relationship between other races and so on. The thing is that when we don't have friends, say Shia friends for example, then we always have this kind of feelings that they're threatening us. And similarly, when we do not understand people of other sexual orientation, for example, then we always find that like, oh, okay, they are trying to make a pass to me or something like that, like when in fact they're trying just to be your friend, right? So you have to be able to accept this and to be able to try and negotiate yourself in this particular situation. And the second question is about when you go back to your country, what will you do? I think the most important thing is that for every one of you, we have to contribute to our own community. And the most important thing, like what Professor said just now, was for the youth to be able to be a bridge among the people and bring unity to this community. And we have to explain to them that it's far beyond this what they call theological differences between us. It's far beyond that. If we can, to me, I kept on telling people, if you can accept Christians to be your friends, why can't you accept Shias to be your friend? So, you have to get to know other people. You have to try and tell them that, this is basically what you have to do to be able to create unity in your community. And, of course, to work hard and to bring up the economy as well, because this economic factor plays a very important role in this, in this situation between Shias and Sunni, right?
Firstly, thank you very much to Dr. Farouk for a very good explanation, I suppose. A matter which has often been overlooked by Muslims in general. Basically, we have been overly simplistic when looking into conflicts, so delving a little bit into geopolitics, looking into the issues are very much good, and I think all of us should actually look more into geopolitics to understand more about the world instead of being very much simplistic, telling that we need to unite, all those kind of things and all the things. Okay, but I would like to inquire even further into the conclusions that you have based on your presentation, because I suppose, okay, before that, I think we need to have a disclaimer. I think the conclusions would need to be applied based on the local context. So in that context, since we are in IIUM, so maybe certain contexts are correct in other countries, but my question will be based on the context in Malaysia. So in that context, I believe that we need a further clarification by firstly on, you were saying about equal rights for the Shiites. So you were saying about equal rights for the Shiites. So in the context of Malaysia, what do you mean by this equal rights for the Shiites? I will attend the session with Dato' Mujahid Yusuf Howard last Thursday, and he was saying that maybe in terms of LGBT, of the lesbian and gays, we should be clear that we are all right for those masses who are actually embracing it, but they are not advocating it actively per se. So in this sense, I believe that these persons, we should actually treat them correctly, and in that sense, I totally agree. You were saying that we should actually stop vilifying the Shiites openly in that sense. But on the second note, I believe that in the Malaysian context, we should also make our stand that on the masses that the masses are of the Sunni, so we should also have the stance that Shiites is another sectarian in Malaysia, and it is people need to be aware of that. So in that context, so what do you mean by the equal rights for the Shiites in the context of Malaysia, or do you think in Malaysia we have already accorded the rights that they should have? Second point, for the third conclusion that you're making, I think this one will also require further clarification. You were saying that we should not use religion as the pretext for security reasons and all the things. I'm not quite clear of that, and for that I would like you to actually enlighten us on what do you mean by that. And secondly, on that conclusion slide, you also put a picture saying that religion, the number one cause of war. So what do you mean when you put that picture? Because I remember your second slide, you put that Sheikh Rashid Ghanushi was saying, actually, in terms of what's happening in the Muslim world, it is not religion which is actually the cause of the conflicts. It's actually political, economic reasons which are causing Muslim disunity of the conflict. So what do you actually mean when you put that picture of that religion is the number one cause of war? Thank you very much.
With regard to the first question about equal rights of Shiites, I say that, everybody in this world, in this country should have equal rights. Meaning to say, equal rights as we accorded to other people, other faiths as well. If we have accorded the Christians to have their own churches, for them to assemble, for them to observe their prayers, and we have some temples for Buddhists, right? We should have equal rights to the Shiites to have their houses. Now, I've been reading in the news, houses were being raided in this country, right? Every time when they're having their events or their readings or they're observing a ceremony, say for example the birthday of Fatima and so on and so forth, they were being raided. So I do not think that this is the idea of what I said as equal rights. Equal rights for them to be able to practice what they believe. That's the most important thing. That is for them to exercise their belief without fear for being persecuted by the government, right? And secondly, about that particular slide, I think I did not really. You were asking about my slides about. No, you're saying about using religion, isn't it? Yeah. So what I'm saying is that when you use religion, the problem is that your eye is blinded. You get what I'm saying? You are not able to see it in a clear manner. Where I said that you are only seeing, for example, you are only seeing that the Rohingyas will be persecuted because they are Muslims, their Muslim brothers, they will be persecuted. But you did not see, for example, other persecutions of, for example, the minorities in Sarawak, for example, right? What do you call that? These people, they have not even, but Penan, yeah, the Penan in Sarawak, right? we do not feel anything for the Penanas in Sarawak. Why? Because we're using, because if we see through the eyes of religion, we don't care whether they're being persecuted, whether their land were being confiscated, whether their forests were being torn down, whether the trees were being fell down, and we don't care. We don't care when their rivers were being polluted. We don't care, right? Because they're Penans. They're not Muslims. Why do we care for them? So that's the point that I was trying to make. So you cannot make religion as your main, agenda for you to be able to be just in your principle in your belief, right? Did I say anything? No, right? Okay.
Yeah, my name is Abdullah Hussein Mohammed from Kulia of Econs, and I would like to just point out one point, which is called about democracy. As the democracy was created or was established by non-Muslims, and it is for them to rule their people. Why does the Islamic states use democracy? Why does most of the Islamic states are establishing this democracy? And there's a hadith about that Prophet Muhammad said is that Khalifu al-Yahud al-Nasara. It means that just every time you do something which is not the same as the Yahud and the Nasara, which is like the United States and those countries. So just like also a past event, there was on the Thursday that we had to fast. So we have to do khilaf because we have to fast the day after it or the day before it, the Ashura. So because of that, I wanted to know about the democracy, why we have to establish it in Islamic states instead of another way.
I have been talking a lot about this particular issue, right? I have been saying, this is basically my bread and butter. I've been talking in seminars in many parts of the world, okay? I will say like this, okay? If you look at Rashid Ghannouchi just now, when he was explaining about it, he wanted to come up with a theory. He wanted to come up with theory from what I showed you on the slides just now. He wanted to come up with a theory of his farahat. Theory of farahat, right? Meaning to say spaces. Meaning to say, he was saying that there are spaces for ad-dini and there are spaces for as-siyasi. Whereas the spaces for dini are limited, spaces for as-siyasi are not. Meaning to say these spaces for ad-dini must be based on dalil, must be based on nas, right? You must have nas to perform for your salah, for example, to perform hajj, to fast, and so on and so forth. These are very limited space, right? That space that will require you to have nas. But, brother, space of this establishing a state is not within that ad-dini. It is within as-siyasi, which is a larger space that requires human intellect. So based on our human intellect, what is the best solution for us to establish a state? So that is why some people believe that why democracy is viable or is Islamic in nature, right? Because not only because of that particular verse, وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ, and so on and so on. It's not only particular because of that verse, but because it is probably, to me, I say in many of my talks and my writing as well, it is the least imperfect of all the imperfections. Least imperfect of all the imperfections. Meaning to say, we are not saying that this is the best. No, it's the least imperfect. It is imperfect, but all the other things are imperfect as well. But it's the least imperfect of all the imperfections. Because when you say that you want to establish a state, an Islamic state, for example, and you say that it must be governed by the Quran and Hadith and so on and so forth, I told you and I told the rest about the incidents of Ali and the Khawarij, right? the Quran doesn't speak on its own. The Quran doesn't speak on its own. When Ali says speak, the Quran doesn't speak on its own. We give the interpretation. So when we say that we want to establish an Islamic state based on Quran and Hadith, it is basically our interpretation of that Quran. And that is why many Islamics such as, or now they call themselves as Islamist Democrat, right? Okay, Islamist Democrat. Why they don't believe in this aspect anymore? Why they believe that it's better? Because the whole idea is that if we establish democracy and we use the human rationale, human thinking, and we were wrong, right? It is we are human. Humans isn't it? That's the phrase that you all know, right? Humans we all make mistakes, right? In the democracy, if we make mistakes, it's human. But if we say that this is Quran Sunnah, and if we make mistake, it gave a very bad impression on Islam, right? Then people will say, how could Islam be so unjust? That's the issue, right? So we cannot. I think to me, and I believe Rahib Ghanouchi as well, he says that this space as CRC is the space where we have to use human rationale and human intellect to try and establish the best state for Islam, right? Because to him and to many others, the Prophet was not sent to establish an Islamic state. That's the whole idea. And Islamic state in the 21st century is not a viable state. Thank you.
Hello, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Hasib. Firstly, I would like to thanks for your insightful presentation. Okay, my question is maybe a continuation from a question from our previous brothers from Syria, which is, I think, can be related with politics of identity. So, as we can see, politics of identity is still being used as by the using of narrative of their superior identity, which I think is not cannot be simply divested. Even in European continent currently, they currently struggle with their own identity, either to embrace the liberal identity or to currently they move backward to be protective and embrace their identity as Anglo-Saxon. So do you think that we can act affirmatively with embrace liberal identity? Thank you.
You mean the Malay Muslims?
No. Maybe to solve this identity, the identity crisis in Arab universally in Malay. So do you think this identity crisis can be resolved by emphasizing on liberal value and principle?
Okay. I did not really get the gist of the question, but I think I understand where you're going. I would say that, first of all, is that we have to define what we meant by liberal or liberals. In this country, right? In this country, previously, before this current government, the previous government, I used to say, in this country, the definition of liberal is that you are a liberal if you do not follow the JAKIM guidelines. Anyone who is against the JAKIM ideas are liberals. It's simple, right? So, the way you look at it is what you understand by the word liberals. Because the idea of liberalism is about freedom, yeah? About hurriyah in Arabic, they call it. Yeah? It's about this hurriyah, it's about freedom. It's freedom of expression, freedom of belief, freedom of thought, yeah? And so on and so forth. So meaning to say that if we embrace this particular concept, right? I think it will solve many issues. It will solve many issues if we are able to embrace this idea of freedom, right? But we have to be sure what we meant by liberals first. Because some people understood liberals are basically people who have no values. People who fornicate, people who drink alcohol, wine, and people who don't observe prayer. These are liberals, right? So I need to emphasize that, you have to define and you have to embrace the ideas of the true liberalism. What is the meaning of true liberalism? And as we know that, without the liberals, there might still be what we call slavery nowadays. It was these liberal ideas that liberated the slaves, right? So these are the things that we have to understand. Yeah, I think that we have to define and we have to be certain that we really know what we are asking for. If we're asking for people to embrace liberalism, then we must define what is the liberalism that we aspire to. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
So, do you think what type of ideal liberal should we embrace to resolve all this politics of identity?
Yeah, well, I think that, like I said just now, the most important thing for us is to, this politics of identity is another issue, right? Is basically, to me, is not really related to the idea of liberalism. When you talk about liberalism, which I've given a lecture on liberalism as well, when we talk about liberalism, is this whole concept of freedom, of hurriyah, that we are proposing and espousing. So we have, unless we can accept that, this concept of, say for example, freedom of religion, then we will be able to accept our Shia brothers. Because it's freedom of religion, it's freedom for them to practice what they believe in. Or the Ahmadi brothers, because it's freedom for them to practice what they believe in. So in a way, yes, it is basically an idea that we should embrace, yeah. But it should be defined. It should be defined. It cannot be simply say, okay, these are liberal ideas, and we do not have any definition about it, because otherwise some people might use it to vilify those people who embrace liberalism as well, right? In this particular country, this particular word is very sensitive. I observed Friday prayer yesterday at this Putrajaya, and liberals were being demonized as well, right? So they call it what? Bahaya liberalism, yeah? The danger of liberalism. So the thing is that because I do not know whether the person who was, giving the sermon, whether he really understands what was prepared for him, right? Because this whole idea about liberalism it requires another lecture and another discussion for us to discuss about it. Yeah.
I understand, one may perhaps we have different perceptions and different interpretations, but when you look at the concept of liberalism, is from outside, whereas within the perspective of Islam, the moment that you go against Islam, then you have to come back. So how can you bring these people back? You cannot just say La ikraha fi din for them. La ikraha fi din is meant for those who are not Muslims. Whereas for Muslims, that should be a punishment. Why is meant the punishment if a person doesn't pray? If a Muslim who willingly is coming to Islam and he doesn't offer prayers regularly, how can we say that there is no la ikraha fi din? For him, there should be ikrah in order to maintain. We talk about ibqa, preservance. How to preserve? Because when you look at the Kulliyat al-Khamsa, religion, how to preserve religion, then we need a system. What kind of system? Then we have to evaluate, like you mentioned, Jakim, for example. If Jakim is claiming something that is against Quran and Sunnah, then we oppose them. But if Jakim is representing Quran and Sunnah properly, then why should we oppose them? Because we trust them. It is like a leader. If you choose a leader voluntarily, then you trust him. When you trust him based on these principles, to be a Muslim, mature, to practice Islam, to be a good example, to follow the Sunnah Quran, finish. That is clear. And if we see that he is going against this, how can we say that there is no ikrah fi din? Now, when you look at the liberals even among Muslims, maybe I can say like we have sisters in Islam. Now, sisters in Islam, they are representing our community. And what they are saying, it is not in line with our religion. So are we going to say that we give them freedom to say what they want to say? You can mention even to Shias, for example. If the Shias, they come to Malaysia, they want to live peacefully, and they don't propagate the Shiism, there is no problem. But if they come to Malaysia, they propagate the Shiism, then there is a problem. So here we have to understand, when I talk about freedom of religion, we allow others as long as they do not create problem for our community. And the difference between us and the Shias is not like, when you look at the madhabs, when you look at the madhabs, we don't have any differences when it comes to the fundamental principles. We talk about opinions. Opinions, we have the right, let's say, as long as it is defended or it is in line with the sources. But when you look at the Shias, they added Imamiyah. Frankly speaking, they believe that Imam finished. And they created the whole problem. But as you mentioned, yes, we respect them, but we do not acknowledge if something that is claimed by them to be in line with Islam per se, we reject them. But we are not here to torture them, you see, to disrespect them. No, we respect them. They are part of our community. But with that condition, like Christians, why we accept Christians? If they migrate, they come here to Malaysia. We tell them, okay, you can stay here as long as you don't propagate Christianity to Muslims. Finish. If they propagate Islam, Christianity to Muslims, how can we respect them? How can we maintain them here? Because that will be a threat when I talk about especially the youth. Now, when you're giving them the food to the youth, and I think that they will be confused. If you are talking about issues that they need, more time, you have to grow up. You might have it, we had, frankly speaking, when I was a student, I'm a product of this university. We had some Shia students here. And they approached me. They told me, why don't you follow Shiism? And I tell them, why should I follow Shiism when I'm a Muslim already? Do you think that Shiism is better than Shafi or Hanafi? And they were dismissed. Why? Because they're propagating Shiism. Frankly speaking, it is like if I come to you and tell you that my madhab is better than yours, so why don't you follow Hanafi instead of Shafi? We are Shafi, Malaysians are Shafi. So why do we need this kind of perception? Because that will create a conflict, And Muslims will say that, at the end they say that, which kind of Islam we are going to follow? Are we going to follow this and that create a chaos? Now, to maintain, we should have a system. So, this is the whole idea. You have a different perception, approach. You are out to the field. You see, I have a different approach. We know the reality. I was, let's say, 20 years, I was not a Muslim, I didn't practice Islam. But when I came to Malaysia, then I came to know about Islam. Then now I'm standing in front of you. But we have to be very careful, especially when we are dealing with young people, because I worry that this will brainwash them. So we have to know what to give to them, slowly, one by one. If you are talking about these issues that Shias and the Sunnis, this will create a chaos as well. But I appreciate your contribution to the fellow. But we have to be very careful. Because when Braz mentioned, even if you go back to Saudi, let's say, and you mentioned this, you did not generalize it, frankly speaking. You see, he did not say anything that is against what we see. But when we look at the interpretation, here we might differ. When you look at the way how liberalism is, the way how Shias, not all of them are bad. You see, we don't generalize. But at the same time, when I follow Madhab Shafi'i, for example, why should I follow that Madhab Shafi'i? So you maintain what you have, that is best, you know? But to respect. No? It is my, sorry to interfere, but I found that this requires a bit clarification.
Right.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. If I responded, if I responded to that, it's going to be very long. It's Zuhur now, so I think we could end over here. Yeah.